People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage Show.
Do you think the film Mary Poppins is appropriate for kids? I would love to hear from you. 605-336-1320. Do parents need to watch Mary Poppins with their kids? I'm curious to get you, because they have changed the rating over in Great Britain. They have changed its age rating from U to PG. So, because of discriminatory language in Mary Poppins. And I would love to get your reaction to this. 605-336-1320. 605-336-1320 if you want to join the program. I love Mary Poppins. I love that movie. We loved watching it with our kids when they were young. I would enjoy watching it with my grandkids. It's a great movie. Absolutely. And great performances. Great songs. But I thought, you have got to be kidding me. So I looked into this. It's over a word used in the movie, Hottentot. You seen that? So this is a story from the fine minds at the Telegraph. I happened to catch it on Yahoo. They said, of all the words that are likely to inspire offense and anger in today's society, Hottentot is not particularly high on the list. You know that, and you know that word is used in the movie, right? It's the admiral who's firing off his cannons, and so on. The Hottentots. And he's talking about, we're going to fight the Hottentots. And then at one point, when the chimney sweeps are dancing around on the rooftops, that's, of course, their faces are all black from the soot of the rooftops and the chimneys. And then the admiral says, we're being attacked by Hottentots. You know that? So because of that, they have changed the rating on Mary Poppins. Now that they're changing the rating to PG, and this is not being well received by many people on social media, that is particularly woke. I think it's a woke decision to change the rating of the movie. I should have checked as to when that movie first came out. The 1964. 1964 is when the movie first came out. It's about as old as I am. A little over 60 years old that the movie is. And the reclassification is because of the word Hottentots. And it's a term that was historically used by Europeans to refer to a group of nomadic herders in South Africa, and is now considered to be racially offensive. So the decision they made in Britain, they say, will help families choose well by giving guidance on what's right for them and what's not right for them. Seriously. I would love to get your reaction to this. Is that a movie that you feel you could enjoy with your grandkids? 605, or your children. So the classification now of Mary Poppins has been changed to U, which was basically then unrated, right? The equivalent, I think, in this country, G. So rated G. Now it's parental guidance is... I would, am I making too much of this? Because my reaction is, you've got to be kidding me. That this is, because there may be things, and I understand this. I understand there are things in movies and, that are that are not, they don't age well. And I understand society changes and the way we use words changes, and we come to understand like hot and tots. I had no idea. I never, that reference, I just thought, well, you know, that's another British reference I don't understand. Because you have those things come up from time to time, and I go, I don't know what that means. But they're changing the rating. And one user on X said, imagine being the person that thinks Mary Poppins needs parental guidance to be seen. Because that's really the question. Does Mary Poppins require parental guidance? And I would welcome your point of view. And this person said, getting ridiculous, so many bigger issues in media that really are affecting childhoods. Oh, yeah, I would agree. I would absolutely agree with that. Another who said, Mary Poppins is racist, and they're putting a poll tax on toasters. Is it time to go home yet? And another who said, you know, a lot of people responding to this saying it's woke. So I'd love to get your perspective. Phone lines are open this 20. I love that film, Mary Poppins. Well, I don't know how many times I watch that with my children, and it's one of the, I still enjoy it. Seriously. I can sit down and watch that movie, and after seeing this story, am half tempted to do exactly that, because it's just one of those that I've always really enjoyed. Not only for the story, but then the incredible performances in that film, I think, are just absolutely terrific. How that family winds up being brought together. You know, by the end of the movie, Mary Poppins really brings them all together. I think it's a great story. Let's get to some of your thoughts. Good morning, Aaron. You're on Kello.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, Chief.
Hey, I'm just glad to see they're working small to big. You know, I'm just glad that this was the highest priority with everything going on in that country right now, that they took time out of their day to really address this thing that, you know, I consider myself fairly well-read. I'd never heard that slur, I guess, or I'd never heard that expression, and I don't think a lot of other people have.
No, it was new to me. But then again, as I said, you know, when you're talking about Great Britain and what's occurring over there, there are things in that film that I wouldn't understand as an American.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine, like, as a parent, opening up a Webster's dictionary to try to explain to a kid why this was racist? Like, it's weird. I kind of get it, but why? Again, it's like, you know, who was offended by this? Did somebody call in and say, hey, this was something that I had a tough time with? Like, who are these? Well,
you've got to imagine the British Board of Film Classification. I mean, this is what they do.
Imagine you get paid to do that. I mean, that's a job. Somebody got paid to do this.
I know.
That's the part that cracks me up, because, again, this is what we're going to do with every movie moving forward, is we're going to be retroactively offended, and everything's going to have to be reclassified. And,
yeah, but this is not the first time that has happened. How many times now, you know, Disney has pulled movies off the shelves before and said, oh, we're not going to make, you know, certain movies available on home video because of the times in which they were made, and no longer our society today now is above that, so we don't want to show that.
Oh, yeah, the cartoons we grew up with, you know, half the Looney Tunes library is out, apparently. You can't see any Tom and Jerry. Like, all that stuff's gone because you can't have nuance or context. You can't understand that for its time, this is what your life was like, and whether good or bad, you know, I think we can be smart enough to say, I understand that this was done in the 1940s, and I understand times were different, perspectives were different, good and bad, but to just wipe it away or to just change it. I mean, can you imagine if you set a copy of Blazing Saddles down in front of that board? Whew. That's city.
Well, Mel Brooks has said very candidly that film could not be made today.
No,
that you
not a
you
chance.
could not get that film made today. And then I begin to wonder, when does it become unavailable? When
Oh, yeah.
because I think that day is coming, seriously.
I do too. And the funny thing is, it's like when you the movie, it has a great message about, tolerance and understanding.
Well, yeah.
There is a good message in that movie.
Well, the black sheriff is the hero.
Yes, and it's such a great movie. But yeah, eventually it will probably be banned. There's a number of movies, Monty Python, take your pick.
Yep.
It's, the permanently offended class in the world that now I wish it used to just say in this country, but it's everywhere now, at least in first world countries. They're just permanently offended on behalf of other people. That's the part that bugs me the most. Let me be offended on my own. I don't need you to do it for me if that's a need I have.
It's a great point. Aaron, thank you so much for the call. Phone lines are open. I'd love to hear from you. 605-336-1320. 605-336-1320. Seriously, would you have any problem sitting down with your family and watching Mary Poppins? I would love to get your reaction to this. So because now they're saying in Great Britain that they are rating the film now PG, because before it was unrated, that U, which means basically same thing as G would be at movies in this country, rated G, general audiences, right? That's what the U rating is, general audiences. Anybody can see this. And now they're saying PG. So parental guidance suggested. And it's just because of that use of that word a couple of times in the film. And again, I understand the reaction of many to this. We're slamming it as ridiculous, backwards. Some who are saying on social media, you couldn't make it up. You can't make up what's going on in the world. You really couldn't. You can't make it up. So I would love to hear from you. 605-336-1320 is the Kello hotline. Is that a film that you have watched with your children? I know I did. I love it. Seriously, it's a great movie. Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke were just absolutely terrific. Among the many performances in that movie, they, I think, just shine. Especially shine in that film. So I would love to hear from you. 605-336-1320. It's not only the story, it's the performances, but when I saw that, I'm just like, yeah. And I kind of feel like Aaron agreed. There are other things that are going on. Certainly, I think in film and rather than Mary Poppins, that this would not be suitable for children to watch alone. Would you let your kids or grandkids watch it alone? Seriously. Phone lines are open, 605-336-1320. Good morning, Will. You're on, Kello.
Morning, Greg. It's a beautiful day at Bizarre World. How about that?
Yes, sir.
So we have a unique perspective over here. We can look at this and kind of gap at it, but I'm going to don the tinfoil hat for a little bit. Where does it stop? The government deciding what you get to, consume, and what you get to decide. Where does your decision making stop, and the government, come in and say, So take for example, the government says, oh, we don't like this type of cereal, so we're going to make it so only if you're over 18 you can buy it. I mean, that seems like a bit of a stretch to some people, but
and honestly, it does to me, because this is a film rating, so we're and we've seen those all of our lives. Film ratings, okay. This film is recommended for, maybe it's rated R, maybe or PG, PG-13, whatever those ratings are. And you can make your own choice. You're still making your own choice. But the reason why they're making this, the thought process behind it, just seems bizarre.
Yes, indeed, and it's just it's another quote unquote death on the pile of an art form, because I don't I hate when people are forced to apologize for things they made 20, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it's we can look, it's film, it's an art form, and when you have to apologize for something, a particular vision you had years and years ago, that defeats the purpose of the art.
Right, it's a product of its time, and I understand that.
Yes, and that's just another thing that I feel like is the erasure of society, and when. Take away a specific form of art or an art form or, anything that is of creation that's created by somebody and, has beauty, has meaning to people. And you start bleeding away, the humanity in it.
It's a great point. Will, I'm glad you called. I appreciate your perspective, pal. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'll give you an example of something I happen to know about a little bit because I'm a big fan of Popeye. I have been following Popeye since I was a kid, and it was in the high school I started to find, and seriously, it's by the time junior high into high school, I started to discover the old black and white Popeye cartoons that were classics in the 1940s. They were absolute classics. And I love watching them for a number of reasons. The animation is just spectacular. I mean, it eclipses the crap that's being produced today by light years. They were just absolutely incredible cartoons. The humor, the ad-libbing, and because Popeye especially, there were a number of voice actors who did Popeye. One in particular went on for decades doing Popeye and really brought life to the character. And because of the fact that Popeye is sucking down under under his breath all the time, that muttering that he was always doing. It was incredibly funny. It was very, very, very funny. And as time went on with Popeye cartoons, as the years went on, there was a growing discomfort with Popeye and Bluto, or Brutus. Later on, he became Brutus, beating the crap out of each other. And then it was, we got to soften this. We can't have all this. We can't have these two guys beating on each other. And by the end, then, because there were some new Popeye cartoons that were produced by CBS for Saturday morning television in the early 1980s. And by that time, by the 1980s, so over the span of about 40 years, they had gotten to a point where they said, no fights between, we can't have these outrageous slugfests any longer between, we can have competition, but we can't have fistfights between those two characters. And those cartoons are horrible. I won't even watch them. I mean, seriously, they're awful. No disrespect to the voice talents, but, I mean, they just, and now you go back and to watch some of those cartoons, and MeTV runs some of these old Popeye cartoons in particular. I watch, they do a half hour on Saturday morning cartoons, and they do a half hour of Popeye. And they carry a number of those old Fleischer animated black and white cartoons. And some of them now, they got full screen warning before, but this, is and some of the cartoons, especially when we got into World War II, the depictions of the Japanese in particular, you won't see those cartoons. You just don't see them because of the depiction of the Japanese in those cartoons. And again, you understand that's a period of the time, and America was at war with the Japanese. And, I think many of us understand that. That's not just a ridicule. You're not just ridiculing them simply because they look different, so on. But, look at a lot of those cartoons, and, Aaron mentioned it when it comes to even some of the classic, Warner Brothers stuff that had been released in this country. Some of it you'll find, and some of it's just not out there. And I think when you start pulling that stuff out of the public domain, you really kind of do a disservice. Kind of forget who we are, I think.